Now, the opposite of power is root, and the square root is the opposite of squaring. Now remember when we did the dots to find the square numbers? So if we put 3 numbers across and 3 rows, we got a square number of 9. So 9 was the square number, and the side number, or the side length, is 3. And so the square root of 9, and we write a square root sign like that, the square root of 9 is the side length, which is 3. Let's try another one. The square root of 25, and if we had 25 dots, we'd have a 5 by 5 arrangement, and the side length would be 5. Now what we can ask ourselves is, for the first one, what number times itself gives you 9? And that's the square root of 9. What number times itself gives you 25? And that is 5. So let's have a look at the square root sign on the calculator. Okay, have a look on your calculator, and on the new calculators it looks like this, and on the older calculators you'll just have a sign like that. So let's look, well, let's do an easy one first, the square root of 81. So key it in as just press that button, the square root, and type 81, and you should come out with 9. Okay, try square root of 50. Now this isn't going to come out evenly, so rounding it, and we've got a bit of a lesson later on rounding, but it comes out to we'll round it to 2 decimal places, 7.07. Okay, square root of 200, try that, and you should get 14.14, rounded to 2 decimal places. Square root of 10.5 is 3.24, and be careful when you do the square root of a fraction, make sure you put the bracket around the fraction. So the square root of 3/4, make sure you key it in as you see it there, and you should get 0.866 or 867. Okay, so that's the square root sign. Now any other root, because you can get the 4th root or the 5th root or the 6th root, you're going to have to use your shift button. Now the shift button gets the keys that are above in the yellow. So on the new calculators, the xth root is above the x to the power button, or on the old calculators it's got the x and a square root, and that's the button you want. So for example, if you're doing the cube root of 64, you're actually asking yourself what number multiplied by itself 3 times gives you 64, and you key it in as shift, then that x root, and then a 3, and then an arrow to get the cursor in the correct place. 64 equals, and you should get 4. Try that. Or if you've got the old calculator, do your 3 first, then do your shift x root, and that's the one above the hat. 64 equals, and you should make sure you can get 4. Now notice that we don't write the 2 for square roots, so the only one, the square root is, it should be like that, but we don't write the 2 there. So square root, and the rest are like cube root, 4th root, 5th root, and so on. And the 2 is the only one. If it's got no number there, you assume it's the square root.